The Supreme Court has finally brought a decision to one say omuruli case no eka say Alban Bagbin aye wrong no omoka say later omo the full ruling no ebeba na Ghana for atiase endra ye hwe nim say full ruling ebeba amba na ende ruling no aba na 2 judges dissent ye utie judges mienu na omo dissent ye on issues na ebi mo nsem no hash to in fact the Chief Justice nankasa ohwe baako ti say Amadu Tanko judge nsem o kan ya na tre say no kra say obo Chief Justice nechi ene other judges echi say omo so asem we so kra edi asem no ama MPP at I said those 2 judges omo ye we but sa 2 judges no me de omo a ruling ebebremo. Okay, because I mean, for the very first time, this is the time I hear who say Chief Justice panel judges judges no bo mo adwen Chief Justice say the internal same way kra no moma yes so na mudi ama MPP sebe de ye enka ye and that be e be ho man ne nyamenti no me de no bebrem later. But let's look at the ruling at 5 no e de ba ya omo emma afenyumakin e winning case no. Okay, let's look at that ruling. Mind you, sa 5 here, the original 5 are almost stay execution. All right. Now, but it's funny because I'm ruling now, even to me, it is confusing. Now, judges need some more candidate or say the Supreme Court has held that a member of parliament cannot be said to have vacated his seat unless he decides to change his political identity and remain in parliament under the new identity. Now, just say Article 97G ye kinkan wa hano. Judges now for us to say indeed no kware say MPB ekoko standing on a different political party MP no e was say lose ni seat. Inti abane say na still omoma afenyuma can win the case no. Because basically no utie ruling now omo kan omo say unless the person changes identity or see a member of parliament, but let's try to read so we understand, because when I was reading, for me, I didn't really understand. I was like, so what is going on? Not just said they held Article 97, but still said, say, Alban Bagbin has lost the case. Meanwhile, Alban Bagbin's case, no, or no agent at the Article 97, which is which? Or see, in the judgment detailing why it upheld a suit by the majority leader in parliament, the court held that Article 97 1G and H of the Constitution cannot be said to have a futuristic application and therefore only apply to a current term of parliament. So when Adia Metena ha say there is no futuristic part. Kufour muninaka say a futuristic no. Supreme Court ne say a futuristic. So the Supreme Court is saying what we all said. And therefore basically the Supreme Court for say MPP phone someone more can they wrong. Say na mo ka say ade na futuristic no, because I came here, I sat here, I read from from Article 97 from the beginning. Who say it has no futuristic implication. Kufour Bekatren say futuristic. The Supreme Court is telling us say it has no futuristic implication. But for some way somehow the Supreme Court still ruled for Afenyumakin. Meanwhile, they were arguing that it has futuristic. But the Supreme Court is saying it has no futuristic. It's for the current term. Okay, the entire Supreme Court, no. Aside all these things, no, still, omuruli, Emma Afenyumakin. I said it follows from the above, therefore, that the only plausible conclusion which must necessarily flow from a holistic and contextual reading of Article 97 1G and H is that an MP's seat shall be vacated upon departure from the cohort of his elected party in parliament to join another party in parliament while seeking to remain in that parliament as a member of the new party the court held. Is this not what we are contesting against? Is this not what the NPP were contesting against? In the Supreme Court, as someone what can say, you cannot be member of a party. Na yato abama say represent a constituency in a party. Na o parliament ambre na no we free party nim akwa join a different political party, and you still want to sit in that parliament. Supreme Court na asemo a what here and say sana article 97 no etre into who party bim now ko join a different political party. Now person still otena parliament or na any kwan say ye penny. So the Supreme Court has affirmed it. So then again I ask a question. Why did they rule for Afenyomakin? Because Afenyomakin was against this. Afenyomakin suit, no, they were saying said the thing was futuristic. They were saying said you can still stay in parliament. So if the Supreme Court is saying say when we read the Article 97 on interest yenia, the intern still ruling Afenyomakin. It doesn't. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Also, similarly, an independent MP who joins the cohort of a party in parliament while they remain members of the parliament for which they were elected as independent member will have to vacate the seat tagged as that of an independent member. The court added. Is it not the same case with the Fomena MP? He came as independent, whilst independent or more Sisiano, and the Wakwako joined the MPP, and he's still in the parliament. Internet NDC for the on the account, and the Supreme Court has said, say yes, Obaye as independent. Now fe wo parliament ho. Now fe wakwa join a party. Now fe no o stand so person what na parliament or na any kwan say ye pene. Supreme Court have also said yes, that is what it means. So then, why did you rule for Afenyomakin if your explanation shows that Afenyomakin has a mean there? But the court therefore held that its interpretation of Article 97(1)(g) and (h) of the Constitution was that they only applied within a current term of Parliament and not an MP contesting for election under a different political identity. What? What is going on here? Relax. Let me read it again so we understand. Also, the court therefore held that its interpretation of Article 97(1)(g) of the Constitution was that they only applied within a current term of Parliament and not an MP contesting for election under a different political identity. Not to say, sir, MPP, MPC, they are not contesting under a different political identity or what? So the Fomena MP, who is an independent member of Parliament, okay, is now back to the MPP and is contesting. And the Supreme Court is saying, say, they are not contesting under a different political identity. Morrison, who is MPP and now contesting on the ticket of independent. And this is fact because notice of poll appear. And so it is fact and the Pakuni MPP ni, and the person is contesting under the ticket of independence, who is a different political party. So is the person not coming to Parliament through a different political identity? So what is the Supreme Court saying? Consequently, Articles 97(1)(g) and (h) must be understood within their contextual framework, with no implicit or explicit indication that they pertain to future electoral aspirations or intentions that would materialize in subsequent terms, such as an MP contesting under a different ticket in the next election cycle, the court held. The 5-2 majority decision of the court was authored by Justice Yaudako Asare. Justices on the majority side were the Chief Justice, Justice Gertrude Saki Tukonu, and Justices Mariama Owusu, Samuel Kwame Adibu Esiedu, and Yao Jewu and Yao Dako Asare, while Justices Lovelace and Amadou Tanko dissented. And therefore, this is the very first time that I have seen that the Supreme Court in their ruling is siding with one person, but in the decision they are siding with another person. Because what the Supreme Court has done right now, I simply don't understand. Now what I am getting is that the Supreme Court knows, says our case way, so my constitution no anto ni yie so a omo ahwe ni yie a omo be kose blanda e wo krom ha. And so they maintained say Article 97 no indeed enye futuristic. Te say entro na MPP for epese ye den etwa etre Ghana for MPP for ade na no mo pese mo ye ne de no mo pese mo sisa Ghana mra MPP for pese mo sisa Ghana mra no because na enko mo And so the Supreme Court maintained, say, MPP for they were wrong. But for some reason, the Supreme Court can say, Afenyoma in case or the abano, there. Meanwhile, Afenyoma in case or the abano, MPP for side that no more casa, any futuristic. MPP for side that no more casa and Kufour, we need to say, you move parliament. It is Supreme Court take say, yes, rules need there. And just and Kufour also move parliament. But we really am almost say, and Kufour is still one Montana parliament. Mentiasie, I don't know, maybe I have to get the full document and then it will make sense, because this summary, and I'm reading from graphic.com, it doesn't make sense to me. I am as confused as ever. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Also, consequently, maybe let me try to get it. Article 97 1G and H must be understood within their contextual framework. Okay, I say Article 97, no, I will say yet here in context, with no implicit or explicit inclination. And you can say ye de a year interest free baby eba yentiasia from the context. Okay, that they pertain to future electoral aspirations or intentions that would materialize in subsequent terms. Such an MP contesting under a different ticket in the next election cycle. This paragraph I don't understand. Consequently, Article 97 1G and H must be understood within their contextual framework with no implicit or explicit inclination that they pertain to future electoral aspirations or intentions that would materialize in subsequent terms. Until someone more can say, okay, MPP MPs no. Or are there more can a future aspirations? But this is why I think the Supreme Court is wrong. At this point, it is not an aspiration. It has someone more can say, nipa krone sesan, and no, any can say man nipa krone parliament. But sa MPP MPC omotina parliament sesiano. Omon sesan ye, eye dachi asem no mo kan, ase eye niswadi hunu. Enti eye niswadi hunu a enyensi ye. Enti sadia no eye niswadi hunu, na nipa krone aye na adwen se wo contest on the ticket of a different political party a. Onyanye eye niswadi hunu, indidi enti na wo se nipa krone de olusu ni seat. And I think that is the understanding I am getting. If I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. But that's the understanding I am getting from the Supreme Court's ruling. This statement, that's the understanding I'm getting. But at this point, the Supreme Court is wrong. In the sense that enye eniswadi hunu after a notice of poll has come out. And it is as simple as that. So nipa krone say, okay, me wa MPP. Mekwa ko contest as independent. Yes, any de eniswadi hunu. But nipa krone file process. Ama electoral commission print asha say omo print ballot papers. Na the pakune nim aba beto ballot paper ne so dia. And no, from that point enye ni so adi hunu biom, that person has made a move and now it is in process. It has already happened. The person has now gone independent. Inti enye ni so adi hunu at that point in time. It is a Supreme Court deal be wuli no aka say enkrofo ya dia wo mo ka so mo be ye no eye ni so adi hunu enu nti ni kwan so mo luso mo seats dia. Then I'm sorry, who is the Supreme Court trying to deceive here? Who is the Supreme Court trying to deceive? Enye entienda ye ko to aba enkrofo still more parliament le ni so adi hunu. Because ballot papers no isi se wa print here we are wa share and these people omonim aba ballot papers ni mu enti eye ni so adi hunu ana. Dabi. Man, we shouldn't be entertaining things like enye. It's not good. So that's the Supreme Court, and then that's the ruling they've brought. Sani amaka no, omo mu dissente ye no. Some of them wrote certain things. Sani amaka no, me de omo ruling no ebebrel. But this is what the Supreme Court is saying. Yeah, semo. Muntre mo ajo comment box ni mo. Me da say.